During the early 1960s, Cheyney State College, an HBCU in Pennsylvania, their basketball team soared a 500 season. They did have several scoring champs in their program, playing in the school's auditorium, Penn Hall, on a court on this stage. They battled for decades in this small building. Coach William O'Shields coached football, track, along with basketball. Then, in 1963, with a new building and a new coach, there would be a breakthrough with a winning season. That first winning season would be the beginning of the golden era. How could a small, historically black college of only 1,200 students turn around a losing sports program? And from 1965 to 1986, win 456 games while losing only 114. Demolished the PSAC, 258 wins against 35 losses in 20 years of history. Win 15 PSAC championships and 17 appearances. Win the 1978 NCAA Division II basketball championships. And his women's team, in 1982, appeared in the first women's NCAA championship ever. Although not winning, they became the runner-up. Also, the coaches of these teams would move on to national success with major colleges. And two are in the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. A complete dynasty. Charles Songster, who followed John Cheyney, was the last coach of that dynasty through 1986. All dynasties have a beginning. 14 years before winning a national title, the seeds were planted. A program that started so dominating, they would win 3 of 4 PSAC championships in their 4 years. I viewed this era from 2 perspectives. First, as a student fan. Every game was crowded, and the big games were standing room only. You can see the fans standing along the wall. We also took 2 buses of students on a 20-hour bus ride to our first appearance in the NCAA tournament in Evansville, Indiana. And the second perspective was, I went to Evansville a second time as the team trainer. I wrapped ankles, gave out ice bags, etc. We flew to Erie, Pennsylvania, and Evansville for games. My first times on an airplane. This is my trophy from that season. The new coach, Hal Blitman, had coached at nearby Darby Colwyn, PA for 5 years. Blitman would take Darby Colwyn to unparalleled heights, winning 4 section titles, 4 District 1 titles, and 2 state championships. He finished at Darby with an incredible record of 107-15. This is 6'8" Thomas Trooper Washington, who led us to our first PSAC championship. Undoubtedly the best player ever out of Cheyney. He was drafted in 1967 in the 5th round by the Cincinnati Royals, but he played instead in the American Basketball Association from 1967 to 1973 as a member of the Pittsburgh Pipers. He also played for the Minnesota Pipers, the Los Angeles Stars, the Miami Floridians, the New York Nets, and he won the 1968 ABA championship with the Pittsburgh Pipers and appeared in the 1969 ABA All-Star Game. In his ABA career, Washington averaged 10.6 points per game and 10 rebounds per game. Washington died suddenly while coaching his first game as head coach of the Pennsylvania Pit Bulls, a team in the league also called the American Basketball Association. Another seed was 6'11" Harold Booker, also known as Hal Booker. He was drafted by both the New York Knicks in the 5th round and the Seattle Supersonics in the fourth round in the 1968 and 1969 editions of the NBA draft, but never played for either team. He played for the Miami Floridians, following his coach, Blitman, who became the head coach. Booker averaged 5.8 points a game, 7.6 rebounds a game, and a half assist a game in his 12-game career with the Miami Floridians, which ended in injury. Our next seed is Emory Mims, a 6'5" jumping jack, all-public player from Edison High School in Philadelphia. With an unreal vertical jump, he would jump center with a 6'11" and a 6'8" player on his team. He was a solid player. He made second-team all-conference, averaging 15 points a game, as Washington and Booker made first-team all-PSAC. Next was David Kennard, a player from Blitman's Darby Colwyn team. He is the only person to kick an extra point and score a jump shot for Cheyney. A member of the 1,000-point club, Kennard was team captain in 1967 and 1968. In 1965 and 1967, he was part of the 4x100 relay team that earned top honors. He was a point guard with sprinter speed, made honorable mention. Total package. Frank Kunze was a prototypical outside shooter. He scored 1,274 points without the three-point goal. Gave the Wolves an inside-outside package. He was the co-captain for the Wolves' 1966-67 squad, which was the Division II East Regional Champ. Frank Kunze was also named honorable mention. Thus the starting five made all-conference. He then played briefly in the Eastern Professional Basketball League. The 9 starters were good also and played a lot. What did all this get us? Well, we went 24-1 in the 64-65 season and 27-1 in the 65-66 season. That's 52-2 over first 2 years. The dynasty had begun. In the second year, recruiting would add 2 players that would ultimately become members of the Hall of Fame. Toby Tyler out of Bartram, the same school as Kunze, and James Sonny Reeler, another Darby Colwyn player. Richard Toby Tyler was a 6'5" rugged forward who could shoot. He scored more than 1,400 points in his career, and he was drafted in the second round of the ABA professional draft by the Miami Floridians. James Sonny Reeler was a key member of the Darby Colwyn High's back-to-back PIAA state championships in 1962 and 1963. At Cheyney, he would run the baseline in their 1-3-1 offense and just shoot the lights out. He was inducted in the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame, Delaware County chapter. In 1967, we won our 3rd championship in a row, then losing in the championship game, 73-61, to Edinburgh in 1968. But the recruitment got better, with additional talent that would be drafted by the pros and or in the Cheyney Hall of Fame. They were Jimmy Wilson, 7-foot Greg Fillmore, forwards James Urban Staggs, Leroy Eldridge, Wilbur Kirkland, Andy Toth, and Charles Kirkland. They would all be drafted by the NBA or the ABA. Jimmy Wilson was first-team all-PSAC his senior year and was most valuable player of the PSAC East Conference. He also made all-Philadelphia area small college first team. In 1970, he was drafted by the Chicago Bulls of the National Basketball Association in the 4th round. In that same year, he was drafted by the Pittsburgh Condors of the upstart American Basketball Association. He played with Pittsburgh until a season-ending knee injury put him on the sidelines and ended his professional playing career. Greg Fillmore of Philadelphia, a 7-foot center, led us to the 1969 PSAC championship. He was drafted by the New York Knicks in the 8th round of the 1970 NBA draft. He was a member of the New York Knicks for 2 years, 1970 through 1972. He also played in the Eastern League with Lebanon Valley. James Irvin Staggs played 1 season, the 1969-70 season at Cheyney. From Edison High, the same as Troop and Mims, he transferred in from North Carolina A&T. He averaged 8.5 points, 2.3 rebounds, 1.4 assists per game in his 53-game career with the Miami Floridians. Leroy Eldridge was drafted in 1971 by the New York Knicks in the 8th round. He was one of the final players cut from the team. He was inducted into the Cheyney Hall of Fame in 1982. In that same draft, Andy Toth was picked by the New York Knicks in round 10, the 15th pick. Wilbur Kirkland played in 2 games for the Pittsburgh Pipers in the American Basketball Association. He was then drafted into the United States Army, and after serving 18 months in the armed services, he returned to basketball. He spent the next 8 years playing for teams in Greece, Italy, and Switzerland, retiring from professional basketball in 1978. He's in the Cheyney Hall of Fame. Another seed was Charles Kirkland, the brother of Wilbur. He was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks in the 8th round, 129th pick overall, of the 1972 NBA draft. He is a member of the Hall of Fame. Also, 2 players not drafted by the pros, but in the Cheyney Hall of Fame, and they are Charles Grantham, a guard from the class of 1965, and John Clifton, a forward from the class of 1972. The non-starters were good also and played a lot. What did all this get us? Well, we went 24-1 in the 64-65 season and 27-1 in the 65-66 season. That's 52-2 over the first 2 years. The dynasty had begun.